His room was dim, lit only by a flickering lantern hanging near the doorway. The air was thick with dust and the smell of old wood, the kind that carried decades of forgotten memories. She stood frozen near the threshold, unsure whether she had stepped into danger, safety, or something that existed somewhere in between. Her shoes were coated with mud from the long walk through the rural paths, and her hands trembled ever so slightly, not from fear, but from exhaustion she no longer had the energy to hide. Then came the voice, deep, steady, and carrying a quiet authority that filled the small space. "Ma'am, bed Piny," he said calmly. "Sit down." She hesitated. He was an imposing figure, tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that made the room feel smaller than it actually was. His skin was glistening with sweat from the heat of the fading afternoon, and his shirt, worn and patched in several places, clung to him like a second skin. Yet his eyes, dark, observant, and strangely gentle, held none of the hostility she feared. He moved forward slowly, as though trying not to startle her. In his hands were several glass bottles, some filled with herbs, others with powders she'd never seen before. He placed them carefully on the wooden table beside her, the clinking sound sharp in the quiet room. "You have walked far," he said, wiping his hands on the cloth hanging from his belt. "Your legs are trembling. Sit, please." His voice was firmer this time, not unkind but leaving no room for argument. She finally lowered herself onto the small wooden stool. The moment she sat, her body surrendered to the relief of being off her feet. Her breath came out shakily. Sweat trickled down the side of her face, but she didn't dare wipe it away. She felt the weight of his eyes on her, studying her, assessing her, trying to understand the urgency that had brought a stranger to his doorstep at that hour. He stepped around the table and pulled a second stool closer, settling on it with a slow exhale. "Tell me," he said, leaning forward slightly. "Why did you come alone? And why now, when the sun is almost gone?" Her lips parted, but the words stuck in her throat. Everything she wanted to say tangled inside her chest. Every fear, every moment of desperation from the last several hours. She felt her eyes sting, but she pressed the feeling back down. I didn't know where else to go," she finally managed. "They said you were the only one who could help." He lifted one brow, curiosity flickering across his expression. She nodded. "The women in the market. The ones who saw my situation. They said you have knowledge. That you heal people when no one else can." He didn't react immediately. Instead, he reached for a clay cup near the lantern and poured water from a jug. He set it gently in front of her. "You should drink," he said. "Your voice is shaking." She wrapped her fingers around the cup, realizing only then how cold her hands were. The water was warm, soothing, grounding. She took a slow sip, and when she looked up, she found him watching her with quiet patience. "Now," he said, "start from the beginning." She swallowed hard. Her voice trembled. "My brother," she said. "He collapsed this morning. Chest pain. He couldn't breathe. We tried taking him to the clinic, but there was no doctor. No medicine. They told us to wait until tomorrow." Her voice cracked. "But I don't think he has that long." A shadow passed over the man's expression. Worry, but also something like understanding. "And they sent you to me." His tone was thoughtful. "A Jelano Nightindew," she said softly. "The healer who uses one fire." The corner of his mouth lifted slightly, though it wasn't quite a smile. "People say many things, some true, some not." He rose from his seat and moved toward a set of shelves filled with jars, bundles, and dried leaves. "But if your brother is struggling to breathe, we must move quickly." He began gathering items from the shelves. Crushed bark, dried roots, a bundle of thin sticks tied with woven fiber. His movements were swift, practiced. Clearly, this was not the first time someone had come to him in desperation. As she watched him, her chest tightened, not with fear now, but with a fragile sense of hope. He didn't question her story. He didn't doubt her urgency. He simply prepared. "Is he young?" the healer asked without looking up. 28. "Has it happened before?" She shook her head. "Never. He's strong. Works in the fields every day." The healer paused for a moment, turning toward her. His eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Then something caused it suddenly. "Tell me, did he complain of anything yesterday? Pain, fever, a wound?" She closed her eyes, trying to remember. He did say. His chest felt tight last night. But he thought it was from carrying heavy sacks. The healer clicked his tongue quietly. Heavy work does not cause sudden breathlessness at sunrise. Something else presses on him. He placed the items into a woven bag and tied it shut. Then he walked back to her and extended his hand. Stand, he said. She blinked. We're leaving now. Yes. His tone was firm again. There is no time. If what you say is true, your brother needs me before the moon rises. She rose quickly, almost knocking the stool over. He steadied it with one hand, then reached for the lantern. Do you have enough strength to walk back? He asked. Yes, she said, though her legs wobbled beneath her. He watched her for a beat, then gave a curt nod. Good. We walk fast. They stepped outside, the cool evening air washing over them. Crickets chirped in the tall grass. The sky was dimming, streaked with the last colors of sunset. As they began walking down the narrow dirt path, she found herself glancing at him. There was something different about being beside him now. Inside the house, he had seemed intimidating, an unknown figure in a small, shadowy room. Outside, with the fading light catching on his face, he seemed human. Capable, steady, like someone who carried the weight of other people's fears without ever letting it show. Why do you help people so late in the day? She asked softly as they walked. Most healers would tell us to return in the morning. He kept his eyes forward. Pain doesn't wait for morning. Neither should healing. His words sent a strange warmth through her chest. They walked in silence for several minutes, their footsteps crunching gently on the dry earth. Finally, they reached a point where the path split into two. She pointed to the left. This way. He nodded and followed her lead. As they continued, a soft wind picked up, rustling the leaves around them. The moon had begun to rise, casting pale light over the land. Her heart pounded, not from fear now, but from anticipation. She could feel hope gathering inside her, fragile and fluttering, like a bird testing its wings. She glanced at him again. Do you think you can save him? He did not slow his pace. He did not look away from the road. But he spoke in a voice steady enough to calm the storm inside her. I will try, he said. And I do not fail easily. Her steps grew lighter. They walked faster. Home was still a distance away. But for the first time all day, she no longer felt alone.